Good afternoon and welcome to the Orange County School Board meeting, and we're pleased to have so many guests here with us today. And joining us also,
join the meeting.
As you may have just heard, that voice from above that sounded like the voice of God was our Vice Chair, Dr. Gordon, joining us. She is out of town, but as she consistently does, she participates in our meetings no matter where she is. I want to welcome all of you all here this evening for our meeting. And before we begin, we always start with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. But before that, I wanted to introduce Member Gould for some sad information to share with you, and also to invite you to join us in sharing your prayers for a family that is one of our own.
We tragically lost a long-term and broad family from OCPS, Mr. Timothy Dodd, who was a second grade teacher at Windy Ridge. He and his two daughters were in the car on the turnpike on the way to school yesterday, and he passed away. One daughter is still in the hospital, and please say prayers for her. The youngest daughter, who went to Windy Ridge, the 11-year-old, is home and only had minor injuries. The other young lady it goes to Olympia, and this family has been with OCPS a long time. Mr. Toddy's taught at not only Windy Ridge, but Independence and Eccleston, and he will be sorely missed by our community. But wrap them in love as we go into this moment of silence.
Thank you. Would you join us? Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Member Gould. All right. Well, at our last meeting, we announced several proclamations for the month of October. Today, we are, before we begin, we're going to also recognize early National Red Ribbon. Boy, I always have a hard time with that. National Red Ribbon Week. I'm pretty sure that everybody else in the audience, if they tried to say that fast 3 times, would equally have a problem. This is a special week to all of us, and next week we will actually, during our meeting, be proclaiming the week. But we wanted to have an opportunity today because we have a special guest with us. Most of you know that the National Bee campaign began in 1985 and has touched millions of people around the world. Ms. Christine Stillwell is the State Director of Programs for Informed Families. Among the many programs that Ms. Stillwell oversees, the Red Ribbon Certified Schools program is one of them. She joins us tonight with more on how this campaign has touched Orange County Public Schools again and again, and especially this year. Welcome, Ms. Stillwell.
Great, thank you. I want to start off today with just a quick video, just to give you a little more history of Red Ribbon. You promised me it would work.
Oh, sure.
We asked middle and high school students what they think about when they hear the words Red Ribbon Week.
Staying away from drugs.
Red ribbons displayed all over school.
Making healthy choices for our future.
That is true now, but do you know the history of Red Ribbon? In 1985, a DEA agent named Kiki Camarena was kidnapped, tortured, and killed in Mexico, working to prevent drug dealers from bringing drugs into the United States. After his funeral, his friends and family began wearing red ribbons as a way of showing their love of Kiki and their respect for his hard work to keep kids safe, healthy, and drug-free. That led to Red Ribbon campaign celebrations across the country and eventually a National Red Ribbon Week in 1988. Red Ribbon Week should be educational and fun, but we can't forget to take a moment to honor the memory of DEA agent Kiki Camarena and his family.
Thank you, Agent Camarena.
We appreciate you, Camarena family.
Thanks for your sacrifice, Kiki Camarena.
We asked middle and high school.
So why is Red Ribbon Week still relevant and important 30 years after the first Red Ribbon Week? Unfortunately, 74,000 Americans died last year of drug overdose. That's more deaths than from gun violence or vehicle crashes. While attention must be paid to helping those already suffering from addiction, we believe that preventing problems before they start must be a priority. Today, we're here to recognize schools that have done just that, made prevention a top priority, and have earned Red Ribbon School certification. Informed Families developed the Red Ribbon Certified Schools program as a way to honor schools that demonstrate excellence in prevention. These schools don't just celebrate Red Ribbon Week. They are dedicated to year-round prevention and work as a team, which includes students, parents, staff, and members of the community to create a healthy environment for youth. This is a tremendous accomplishment. Not only are these schools doing excellent prevention work, but they are dedicated time to complete a comprehensive application that was ultimately reviewed by a group of experts in the field of prevention under the guidance of the University of Central Florida Department of Social Work and Institute for Social and Behavioral Sciences. Less than 50% of the schools who complete this application actually pass. So we're very pleased tonight that we have 2 schools in Orange County that went through this process last year and will be recognized tonight. The schools were reviewed in the following 4 areas: leadership commitment to a healthy school environment, use of best practices in prevention education, parent involvement, and year-round commitment to Red Ribbon youth substance abuse prevention activities. Now I'll call the 2 schools up to present them with a plaque and share something from their application. Our first school tonight is Cypress Creek High School with Principal Dr. McHale and application lead Sheena Montgomery, who was instrumental in getting the application done. University of Central Florida noted in the application that the students at Cypress Creek High School are part of the solution to substance abuse, violence, truancy, dropout, teen pregnancy, and academic failure. Last year, students took first place in the Orange County Drug-Free Office Youth Ambassador Drug Prevention Program at Cypress Creek. Students participated and planned ongoing activities that brought awareness to those issues. The School Safe program received a grant from the Drug Office that allowed students to promote drug-free projects throughout the school year. It also provided materials for students to give their classmates about prescription drug abuse, safety during proms and graduation, pledges for parents. Students worked with the SAFE coordinator to complete all these projects. So congratulations, Cypress Creek.
Is there a reason we don't get to shake Sharon's hand?
She's going to come back again.
Like, what is that?
Well, we have one more school.
Okay, all right, sorry. Sorry, but any place great things are happening, you could pretty well bet she's close by.
The next school we'd like to recognize tonight is West Orange High School with Assistant Principal Tim Schuler and the lead Red Ribbon application person, Kristen Iannuzzi. What was picked up in their application is West Orange greatest research in prevention and intervention are teachers and staff who take a proactive role in nurturing students. Each year, students participate in the Orange County Drug Office Red Ribbon Week contest. The school has historically engaged in Red Ribbon Week over 7 years. Each year, they decorate the school with banners, posters, and red ribbons. They put information on their school marquee for the community to see and promote Red Ribbon on their morning announcements. Students spread the word about Red Ribbon during lunch and at other school events. The SAFE ambassadors, peer mediators, and SAD students work hard each year, guided by staff at West Orange High School. Over the years, they have engaged more students and have included more ways for teachers and staff members to be involved in Red Ribbon. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Congratulations. Wonderful. Thank you. And I mentioned that this is a year when this is
Kathleen Gordon checking
extremely important.
has left the meeting.
I really believe the power of our children to change the future is remarkable, and I can point to so many times when the next generation has. But I think in all the years that we've been fighting with drug addiction as a nation, this is the first generation that's growing up realizing that prescription drugs are just as much of a threat as illegal drugs. And so what I look to for this generation is that our kids come home informed and that they're talking to their parents about when their parents maybe come home from the hospital and how many drugs they're taking for their pain. Hopefully our doctors are doing the right thing. But I believe that our kids are going to grow up a lot smarter than we grew up and a lot more cautious. And if we can't end this epidemic of drug overdose by opioids, our next generation of kids will, because of the great work that our schools are doing. So to our two schools we're recognizing today, thanks for being at the forefront of changing the future and saving lives that you can't even begin to touch today. Thank you. Now let's move on to, we want to recognize a distinguished principal. We want to recognize a distinguished award for our public schools professional learning department. Last month, Susan Abbey with the DPLC, I know I can say that, were recipients of the 2019 Outstanding Professional Learning Practices Award. The award was presented by the Learning Forward Florida for implementing powerful professional learning practices that impact teachers and students. Congratulations to the entire team for your work and dedication. And they are here tonight, I believe. Ms. Abbey, are you here with us this evening? If you would come up to the podium.
Good evening. Thank you, school board members, Superintendent Jenkins, and staff for this recognition. The Professional Learning Department applied for this award on behalf of Orange County Public Schools to highlight the work that we do toward continuous instructional improvement. For those of you who don't know, Learning Forward Florida is the state affiliate of Learning Forward, the only professional association devoted exclusively to those who work in educator professional development. This annual award is presented to leaders in the field of professional learning who have shown evidence of outstanding practices aligned with the Florida professional learning standards. This award recognizes the system of professional learning OCPS developed to impact teacher pedagogy, leadership capacity, and ultimately student achievement, or what we call the district professional learning community. I would like to specifically thank the design team who is with us here tonight. The design team researches and designs the literacy and leadership content for the series of professional learning experiences. In addition, there are other teams who made this award possible. The entire professional learning department who supports each session, the chief academic office team that helps guide our work, the school teams that are comprised of teachers and principals who bring the learning back to their schools, and our executive leaders who coach and support the literacy and leadership practices at our schools. So while the Professional Learning Department accepted this award, it truly reflects the work and the efforts of our entire district. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to bring the team forward?
Sure.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. We have certificates, so don't go anywhere. Awesome job. Great to see you. Awesome jobs. Congratulations. Congratulations. Great job. Awesome. Great job. Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Thanks for making us so proud. Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
Good job. Thank you. Good job.
All right. In addition to those recognitions, we also have several proclamations. One is a proclamation proclaiming October 21st through the 25th as School Bus Safety Week in Orange County Public Schools. And with us, we have Mr. Bill Wynn to read that proclamation on behalf of the board. Welcome, Mr. Wynn.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Dr. Jenkins, board members, and staff. We appreciate your support and opportunity to brag a little bit and to read the proclamation for School Bus Safety Week. But before I read the proclamation, I'd just like to say that the Transportation Department has just about 1,500 employees, in addition to the drivers and monitors, who help maintain buses, make sure the buses are routed, and make sure the drivers have support on the road as well. So it's a dynamic team, and several of the team members are here tonight with us. And the school buses are a crucial part of the education. For every school bus that's out there, it takes 48 cars off the road. So if you can imagine the 880 buses we have, take over 43,000 cars off the road every day. So provide a big impact to the district. And riding a school bus, their students are 70 times more likely to arrive at school safely than riding in a car. So it's a very important role, a very important part. So to read the proclamation for School Bus Safety Week, whereas yellow school buses are the safest possible vehicles for children whose homes are more than 2 miles from school, requiring transportation according to state and national data, and whereas the Florida Department of Education, Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, OCPS Transportation Services, as well as local law enforcement agencies and other organizations are committed to providing safe, crash-free environment for more than 69,000 OCPS school bus riders, buses who travel more than 95,000 miles daily. And whereas the exemplary safety performance of more than 880 bus operators is observed every day on the roads of Orange County by motorists and student riders. And whereas the state and local agencies are encouraged to support student safety activities associated with the National School Bus Safety Week, October 21 through 25, 2019. And whereas students have safe transportation to and from school, riding a properly maintained school bus driven by an experienced driver, and whereas people of all ages are responsible for promoting a culture for safety, whether riding a school bus or driving near a school bus, and whereas safety measures have been implemented as a result of collective efforts of Florida state and local safety partners, along with national, state, and community organizations, and whereas the agencies and organizations that support these safety activities to promote the health and safety of school children during School Bus Safety Week should continue their work this week and throughout the school year. So be it resolved that Orange County Public Schools encourages everyone to consider the safety and health of children today and every day, does hereby proclaim October 21 through 25 in Orange County. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Do you have any members of your team?
If they can all stand.
Why don't you all not stand? Why don't you come forward so we can thank you for the great job you do? And Ron, why don't you come forward with the team?
And we do work very closely with Ron and his group as well. Absolutely. We have our area managers here. We have our senior administrator of fleet services. Thank you very much. Our senior administrator in operations, senior administrator of business services, area manager Denny, our director, our safety manager, and also area manager Ms. Harris.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Yes, Bill, congratulations. Nice to see you.
I tell you, there are a lot of tough jobs here in Orange County Public Schools. And certainly one of those jobs is being a bus driver. And but they're extremely important. As superintendent always says, it's the first face of Orange County Public Schools that greets many of our children in the morning. And the last face that they see when they arrive back home. So it's a really hard job. Mr. Wynn will tell you sometime about my own personal experience on a bus a few years back. It's a hard job, but it's also a job that if your heart is in it, you can make a huge difference in the children's lives just by that friendly face that acknowledges them and starts with a good morning. So thanks for the great job you all do, and keep it up. Next, we're going to recognize October 21st through 27th as America's Safe Schools Week here in Orange County Public Schools. And I don't need to tell anybody just how important school safety is to us and to every school across the nation. But here to read that proclamation on behalf of the school board is our Chief of Public Safety, Brian Holmes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Jenkins, this dovetails very nicely with Red Ribbon Week and, of course, School Bus Safety Week. I'm here to proclaim the week of October 21st through 27th, 2019 as America's Safe Schools Week. And I'll just go ahead and read the proclamation and make a couple of comments about that. Whereas the National School Safety Center has established October 21st through 27th, 2019 as America's Safe School Week. And whereas excellence in education is dependent on safe, secure, and peaceful school settings. Whereas a safe learning and working environment is an established goal within the district's strategic plan. And whereas prevention and early intervention strategies are used by the district to reduce the occurrence of disciplinary and security incidents within schools. And whereas the district has implemented a comprehensive school safety strategy based on contemporary emergency preparedness practices and training, physical security standards, law enforcement coordination, and visitor management. And whereas school safety will remain a core priority for the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Orange County Public Schools hereby proclaims the week of October 21st through 27th, 2019 as America's Safe Schools Week for Orange County Public Schools. So with that said, we do have a couple of members of our team here. I have Sergeant Day back here and Sergeant Ogburn, who are both members of the OCPS District Police. We also have members of our district threat assessment team in the back row. If you would, please stand up. If you would, district threat assessment team. There's two. We also have some of our area administrators. And yes, Sarah Kopeski, you are on the team. Please stand up if you would. Area administrators, please stand up. We call that the DTAT team, District Threat Assessment Team. Every school has a STAT team, which is School Threat Assessment Team. So they aren't here represented tonight, but they help keep our schools safe. And anytime we have a threat towards a school, a student makes a threat, anyone makes a threat, they convene, assess that threat, and determine what ought to be done to respond to that threat. So these are type of things that we have down at the ground level. They're in the school and, of course, here at the district level to help keep our schools safe. I also want to say thank you to all of our law enforcement partners we have out there. They do just a tremendous job and providing SRO services and first response services after hours to deal with these type of things as well. So we really appreciate everything they do for us.
Excellent. You want to bring you and the team up?
Absolutely.
Please.
Come on forward, if you would. Come on forward. Oh, and Mary Bridges.
Yes, absolutely.
We just spent 2.5 hours in a meeting.
I'll be more of your team.
Wonderful. And our last proclamation for this evening is for October 24th as National Lights On After School Day in Orange County Public Schools. And to present that proclamation, we're going to hear from Kim Marlowe. Kim, welcome.
Thank you. Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Jenkins, I'm really pleased to read tonight's proclamation on behalf of after-school children. Here in Orange County Public Schools, we service approximately 24,000 students before and after school each and every day. So on behalf of them, the proclamation for Lights On After School Day. Whereas the School Board of Orange County, Florida, stands firmly committed to quality after-school programs and opportunities which provide safe, challenging, engaging, and fun learning experiences to help children and youth develop their social, emotional, physical, cultural, and academic skills. Support working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive after the regular school day ends. Build stronger communities by involving our students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of our young people, thereby promoting positive relationships among children, youth, families, and adults. Engage families, schools, and diverse community partners in advancing the welfare of our children. And whereas extended day enrichment programs operated by Orange County Public Schools, outsourced providers, and after-school zone for our middle schoolers serve over 20,000 elementary and middle school children with affordable or free before and after-school care programs. And whereas school-age services provide significant leadership in the area of youth development, grounded in the principle that quality after-school programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. And whereas Lights On After School, a national celebration of after-school programs on October 24th, 2019, promotes the critical importance of quality after-school programs in the lives of children, their families, and communities. Whereas more than 28 million children in the United States have parents who work outside the home, and 15.1 million children have no place to go after school. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Orange County Public Schools does hereby proclaim October 24th, 2019 as Lights On After School Day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And do you have anybody, Member Gallo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I applaud this effort. I actually sit on the Florida After School Network, and so we're working on policies right now on quality providers for after school and looking at ways to create best practices. So I truly understand the importance of bringing awareness to after school and all the great work they do, so thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Can you come forward so we can shake your hand? Thank you for all that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
And Dr. Jenkins, do we have any newly appointed administrators? All right, then we're going to begin the business portion of our meeting. For those of you who don't choose to stick around, this is a great time to exit. For those of you who are here with us for the evening, it should be a short one. But again, this would be an opportunity to leave.
Really cool with Dr. Phillips, so I might not want to.
That's true. That's true. right, let me just check. I have one member of the public, Suzanne Knight, who wishes to speak. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak to anything else on tonight's agenda?
This member wants to speak.
I know, but you don't have to fill out a yellow card. Not like you're chomping at the bit. All right. So then let me first check with Dr. Jenkins. Dr. Jenkins, any changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have one change happened since we had our pre-agenda meeting. That is to remove employee with initials MH, who is a nurse, removed to be brought back at a later time. That's for item 5.01.
Thank you. The chair finds cause to amend the agenda. Is there a motion to amend the agenda? Motion by Member Gould, seconded by Member Gallo. All in favor of the motion to amend the agenda? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Aye.
Motion. Thank you. Dr. Gordon, a member, the motion carries unanimously. Before we take up the consent agenda, which is the next item on our agenda, let me call on Ms. Knight. Is Ms. Knight with us this evening? Principal Knight. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. I believe I'm Dr. Suzanne Knight. I'm the principal of Dr. Phillips High School. I believe I am on the, or I'm not on the agenda. Karen Ruggiero is for the naming of the theater at Dr. Phillips High School, which is why I'm up here now and I filled out the card. So what I would like to do is just share a few brief words about Karen, who is here tonight, along with our former principal, Jean Cherchinsky, who led her for many years, as well as Dr. Border, and a whole regiment of her supporters out in the audience. So we're very excited about this. I will try to make it brief, because Karen has a long history of great things that she's done just for Dr. Phillips High School, and that doesn't go into everything else she's done. So very quickly, I know time's running, she was the first teacher of the year in 1987 and 88 when the school opened, and was instrumental in creating the Visual and Performing Arts Magnet at Dr. Phillips.
Don't worry about the timer.
She served as a theater director of the Magnet from 1987 until her retirement in 2014. In that time, she has directed over 120 shows at Dr. Phillips Theater, winning national and international recognitions for Dr. Phillips High School along the way. Here are a few of her accomplishments. In 2006, Ms. Ruggiero was named National Theater Educator of the Year by Stage Directions magazine, named Orange County Theater Educator of the Year, and was awarded the Westin Grand Bohemian Hotel Fine Arts Scholarship. In 2007, she was awarded the Florida State Thespian. They presented her with the Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Theater Education. In 2008, in the Florida Theater Conference, they awarded her Career Achievement Award for Secondary Educators. Ms. Ruggiero has been named a National Distinguished Teacher of the Arts 3 times and has been honored at Washington, D.C. by the Presidential Committee for Scholars in the Arts in 1995, 97, and 98. Ms. Ruggiero is the owner and director of Act 3 Acting Studio and founded the Robin's Nest program, which is dedicated to bringing theater into the lives of special needs students. She is currently Director of Education Advancement and Outreach at the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center downtown here. Under Ms. Ruggiero's direction, DPHS Theater represented the state of Florida 4 times in the American High School Theater Festival at the International Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland in 1995, 2001, 2006, 2010. DP Theater received first place at the Florida Theater Conference in 93, 95, 97, 2012, and 2013, and earned hundreds of first-place awards at the State Thespian Festival over the past 27 years. Ms. Ruggiero created and helped build a curriculum framework for Dr. Phillips Theater Magnet students that focused on their academics as well as artistic needs in the terms of post-secondary education. Seniors graduating from the Theater Magnet consistently earned scholarships to prestigious universities and acting conservatories across the country. Ms. Ruggiero created the first drama curriculum handbook for Orange County Public School teachers in 1987. This became the basis for the VPA Magnet's integrated arts curriculum, and it aligned with the Sunshine Sunshine State standards. Under Karen Ruggiero, the Theater Magnet students earned over $2 million in scholarships each year, reaching up to over $6 million in 2012. Theater students have been enrolled in performing arts programs in schools such as Juilliard, NYU, Tesh School of the Arts, Carnegie Mellon, Boston Conservatory, University of Florida, FSU, and UCF, just to name a few. Ms. Ruggiero helped create a relationship with the Dr. Phillips Rotary Club that includes theater students working on projects such as their July 4th celebration and the Taste of Dr. Phillips. Karen Ruggiero's influence on her students can be seen in the careers of her DP Theater alumni who have gone on to have successful careers in Broadway, film, and television that includes some well-known actors such as Wayne Brady, who is also a member of the OCPS Hall of Fame. Since her retirement from OCPS, she has volunteered over 1,100 hours working with theater students and special needs students at Dr. Phillips High School. Through Act 3, her acting studio, Ms. Ruggiero serves as a partner in education for the school. Through the Robin's Nest, her program for autistic and special needs students, she has volunteered with the special ed program at Dr. Phillips, working with the students in their classrooms and putting on a musical in which special needs students appear with Theater Magnet students in a show for parents and other members of the community, and this is done yearly. Karen Ruggiero is a lifelong educator of students, especially those who are connected to the theater world. She is very well deserving of this recognition and naming the theater in her honor. Ms. Karen Ruggiero.
I would just like to take a moment to thank you for this recognition, because this is not just for me. This is for teachers. And acknowledging teachers and career investment in our kids. Everyone has their team, and I always say I have my village, because it takes a village. What I've done is not theater, but help raise a village that is inclusive, diverse, and accessible for every child. I just got lucky and found a place in theater that made it a very fun place to be, and hope that every child has the chance, the opportunity OCPS provided me to be able to reach out to kids, every child. Wayne Brady, Joey Fatone, but there are hundreds of other kids, and there'll always be kids to me, that have gone on and have been able to take life lessons into whatever career they choose. And I appreciate the opportunity here for this acknowledgement, because it represents every teacher's investment in our kids. Thank you so much.
Well said. Member Gould has something she wants to say.
Some things are sprints and some things are marathons, and certainly getting through our processes is a marathon. But before I was a school board member, before I even thought about running for school board, I have roots in theater myself. And the first name that I heard about, and I was working in healthcare when I moved to West Orange County in the theater programs, was Karen Ruggiero and her impact on the community. And I don't mean just the educational component. The Dr. Phillips Performing Arts and Visual Arts Magnet Program has been a center point for that village. Even with other high schools, the cooperation, the community partnerships like with Rotary, with Universal, I mean, the list could go on and on and on and on. But it has reached beyond the walls. And the other beautiful thing about this woman is that she lives her passion. She didn't retire and go into the sunset as she could have. Instead, every day she wakes up and continues to dedicate her life to making exactly what she said, diversity welcome through arts and through arts training and through that collective behavior of trying to get something done together. And even when it fails, you've done it together, and there's an unbreakable bond in that. It rarely fails, but every once in a while, something bad happens in the theater. So I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the community enough for continuing to lift up this project and move it forward. And I am thrilled that we got to this day. And I look forward to continuing to see you in the community with lots more little blossoming buds coming out and really finding their way, no matter what career path they have after they've been through that program. They are stronger, they're better, they're more confident, and they're more loving citizens.
I'm proud to say that one of my former students is now running the Theater Magnet. Jason Whitehead is here tonight. And that's part of the legacy, that they want to come back and give back. And that dear to my heart.
Well, thank you, and thank you. You look like you've been golfing a lot. So Dr. Trzynski was at Dr. Phillips when I first came in, and he's like, yeah, I'm leaving soon. I'm going to be on the golf course most of the time. But,
we have the same retirement mantra.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. He looks much more tan than you. But thank you for coming back tonight, and thank you for supporting that program and helping it to blossom. And Dr. Knight has done a tremendous job of taking that baton and really making sure that we didn't stumble one bit, even though the community panicked when you were retiring. Panicked. Right? Yes. Be honest. Yes. So it has been a legacy that you have passed the baton within the school, but you're still there to catch them when they come out of school if they so desire.
And I'd like to thank the Cherneys for supporting me, especially in the inclusivity and diversity initiatives, and supporting the program when I retired and took it out to Robin's Nest and said, we can do this. And she said, okay, let's do this. And Becky's been right there supporting those. So it truly takes a village to make a difference. And I've been blessed to have such a support program of people, one after the other, stepping up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we actually technically have to vote on this.
Oh, yes.
So if anybody doesn't vote for this, you might as well get to the car as fast as you can, because you are no longer popular and welcome in this room. All in favor of, is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Member Gould, seconded by Member Cobert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Gordon, are you with us?
Aye.
All carries with all members present, voting in the affirmative. Member Gordon, before we move on, was there anything you'd like to say?
No,
okay.
I just want to say congratulations to all the honorees tonight and the proclamation. And I just want to make sure I got my vote in. Okay.
Absolutely. You are registered and present and registered in spirit and on the line.
Right, I know they didn't, I did not hear them mention Karen with that Jones, and it started to run back. My daughter was fortunate enough to be in it for a little while.
Yes, ma'am.
Until, she moved over to Dr. Phillips, but congratulations to her. I extend that to her and the best to her.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gordon.
That is priceless. Dr. Gordon isn't even present with us, but she is on the phone holding us accountable for the history and defending always her district.
So forget it.
Absolutely.
If you leave out one part of your life, then had it not been for that Jones, no telling where Terry may have ended up.
That's absolutely.
So that was a good start. And we're not finished yet, so she still has a lot of work left to do. All right?
Awesome. Thank you. All right.
And congratulations to her. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and log out. I think it's done on your agenda, right?
We absolutely have. Thank you so much, Vice Chair.
All righty. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
And the
you.
board
All
members.
right, this is official. So congratulations, go celebrate. And job well done. Why doesn't, if Member Gould will go down with the team and with everybody here in support of Karen, let's take a picture, a group picture with all of y'all.
And the board.
The board can come? Wonderful.
Yeah. We want to stay up here and they
We'll stay up here, yeah.
Hey, Scott, can you take a picture for me?
Or do you stay up here? Okay, that's fine.
All right, all you fans, come on. Come on. All the village. We couldn't fit them all here.
So good. This is so awesome. Yeah.
All of the things she's got. I said, well, she got her stuff. I said, no telling where she had put it in. Karen was area, she should have been her job. On and off. And you know, the Dr. Phillips was on and on. She loved me. And I went,
All right, Dr. Jenkins, do you have a report for the board?
No report, Madam Chair, other than executive session.
Okay. Yes, we have executive session. Ms. Fernandez, I'm like trying to figure out what the term is. General Counsel Fernandez, do you have a report?
I do. Just a quick update for the board. There was a case from back in October 2018 that involved the erroneous dismissal of 27 truancy petitions filed by the district. The district appealed the decision to the 50CA, and the 50CA agreed with the district's legal position. We received the final mandate yesterday from the 50CA, officially concluding the appellate litigation. So we're done with that. And I just wanted to thank Sarah Kopesky and John Palmerini from our team for doing a fantastic job on that case, as well as our outside attorney, Nick Shanine, for all the excellent work on the appeal and getting us this very favorable result.
All right, excellent, thank you. All right, next we're going to have a presentation. This is a presentation that I gave to some citizens that have been concerned about school overcrowding so that they could come prepared to speak at the CRC with a little bit more information. So I am waiting on Victor or somebody to load the presentation. I don't think I get to do that. I think it needs to come up first, Scott. I do have a clicker, but not till it's up running. Thank you. Here we go. Thanks, Scott. Oh, that's not it.
I got to pull it up.
That is it. If you go down to the bottom, okay, yeah, that works. Thank you. Okay. So the agenda that we went over includes the history of how we, as a public school district, came to be involved in the land use issue and school overcrowding at the county and city level, our primary sources of funding for school relief, and then the Orange County Charter Review Commission proposal that was on the table. Most of you all are familiar with the Martinez Doctrine. Just real quickly, this was when Martinez was in office, and he directed his staff to find out from Orange County Public Schools if there was capacity in our schools when there was a rezoning or a comp plan amendment. That's in the early stage of development rights and approvals. And believe it or not, this was the first time, this was in 2000, it was the first time that any jurisdiction anywhere in Orange County, and I think in the state of Florida, was actually reaching out to school districts to provide this information. The staff was directed to recommend denial if there wasn't enough capacity in the impacted schools. And although it was not binding on the board, it was just a directive to the staff to offer that recommendation. Since that Martinez Doctrine memo was issued, there has never been a time when the Board of County Commissioners has voted to approve a rezoning or a comp plan amendment with the objection of Orange County Public Schools. And then in 2000, shortly after that, a property owner zoned for the Metro West Elementary School, happened to be my school, and happened to be the most overcrowded elementary school in all of Orange County, sought to annex into the city of Orlando immediately. Fortunately, we were able to talk Glenda Hood out of the annexation, but that began to raise the issue of whether one jurisdiction alone could help to deal with school overcrowding. In 2003, as we've discussed before, Orlando, then Mayor Glenda Hood was no longer there, but Orlando approved an apartment complex, a rather large apartment complex, that would have affected, or did affect, Dr. Phillips Elementary School, which also at that time was busting at the seams. The parents from Dr. Phillips Elementary School showed up at those hearings to oppose it, but I believe it was unanimously approved by the city council. The parents later realized that even though they had a Orlando address, none of them actually lived in the city of limits. No children in Dr. Phillips Elementary School were in the city limits. So they had the disadvantage of not really having any representation. So in 2004, at that time I was the sitting district commissioner. People wanted me to fix the problem and I had no authority to, but it just happened, as luck would have it, that we had a charter review commission seated, and it occurred to me that we could put something in the charter that would be binding on all jurisdictions to reach out to Orange County Public Schools and do what we were doing. The goal was to reduce overcrowding in the future by ensuring that there's this coordination between the cities, the county, and OCPS, by ensuring that we have an opportunity to adequately plan for facilities, and to ensure that our cities and the county either turn down development approvals such as zonings or land use if the schools are overcrowded, or require enough mitigation to effectively alleviate the overcrowding. So I probably just went through about all of this slide. So the way it works is, and the way it has continued to work, is that the cities and the counties do approach us. In the beginning, the school district was more inclined to say, we're just over capacity, we can't make it work. But developers did not obviously want to be stopped, so the school district worked very, very hard to find a way to move things forward. Initially, those mitigation agreements were fairly large, and some of the smaller developments couldn't move forward because they might have 20 or 30 kids, but they couldn't find a way to fund a solution for such a small number of kids. Over time, the district began to refine their capacity enhancement agreements. As you know, it is now the credit portion of the impact fees. It works out to be about 22% of the impact fees. If the applicant doesn't want to go forward with a capacity enhancement agreement, there is technically a roundabout way that they can do it. They can proceed directly to the city or county. They don't have to come through us. But if a city or a county approves that development, that rezoning or comp plan, without the capacity, it then has to go to all other jurisdictions who have children in that school, a significant number. So for instance, if a POPCA wanted to approve something, but Ocoee had children in that school, or Oakland had children in that school, each of those jurisdictions would have an opportunity to vote. It was a pretty strong poison pill, if you will, because the jurisdiction who might want to approve it for the value they get in the land appreciation might say yes, but the other jurisdictions who are purely looking out for the welfare of their students would probably veto it. So it's never happened. The good news is, since we put this in place, not a single affected jurisdiction has ever approved of a land use or a zoning change without our support. So how is, so along came concurrency just a couple of years later. We put this in place, and then the state came up with a mandatory concurrency. How is that different? Well, first of all, what we did was locally created through our charter. The state created something through legislation. It applies, theirs applies, the state's concurrency system applies at the already zoned stage. So you already have a right to build a subdivision. Now the state says we can stop that development or force them to pay a mitigation fee to go forward, but only under certain conditions. And one of those conditions is that the school district has to look not just at that school, but it has to look, for instance, if it's an elementary school, it has to look at all the schools in what's called a concurrency service areas. For elementary schools, it's about 5 schools. And then if there's capacity anywhere there, the school district has to say yes. If there's not, then the school district has to look at other concurrency service areas around that elementary school. So you end up with a pretty big area that you're looking at. And even then, if you determine there isn't, then the school district, if the project that's needed for relief is in the 5-year work program, then they can negotiate a proportionate fair share agreement. So the developer pays a little bit more and they go forward. If it's in the 3-year work program, then we have to say yes if there's capacity anywhere in that broader area. So the concurrency is a little later in the process, but it has a lot more strings attached to it. The capacity enhancement agreements that are part of the charter amendment gives us a lot more authority at an earlier stage. And the effectiveness of the concurrency was 2008, but then the legislature made it optional in 2011. I point that out because we're not required to follow it, but we do have interlocal agreements that are binding with all of our local governments. So that's a good thing. The adopted level of service. This, I think, came as a huge surprise to the handful of people that we met with, and I think also to the Charter Review Commission. So our current adopted level of service for both our charter amendment and for concurrency. For elementary schools, it's 110% of adjusted fish capacity. For middle schools and high schools, it's 100%. So adjusted fish capacity, for those who don't know, that does not include portables. That includes permanent capacity, and it's based on the size of your cafeteria. It does allow for modular schools, those in-slot schools that we used to have. I think, Dr. Jenkins, we've replaced, I think, almost all of those. So generally, this is, for us, it's going to be our fish capacity, our permanent capacity based on the size of our cafeteria. As I said, this came as a surprise to a lot of our constituents, because they're the ones who have overcrowding are wondering, what if we're at 100%, why are we seeing so much overcrowding? For us, the way this works is once you hit that threshold, if there isn't a school in the 3-year work program that will open in time to provide that capacity, then we begin collecting a mitigation fee. But at this stage of the game, we don't say no. We just collect a mitigation fee. This may be something that the board at a future meeting wants to discuss, if there's some level at which we reach overcrowding and we've been overcrowded for a period of time, that we may want to adopt a stricter standard than we currently have. And under the charter amendment we have and the interlocal agreements that we have in place, we have that ability as a board to set a policy that's more restrictive than our current practice. Sorry, clicker's not 100% there. There we go. So how effective has this been? Not nearly as effective as I thought it would be, because we're not applying it quite as rigorously, but for understandable reasons. But in spite of that, and in spite of a recession, we've had growth in student enrollment since 2007 of 22,000 plus students. And the growth in permanent student stations is almost double that at 44,000. Okay, so we're adding more student stations, almost twice as many student stations. We are, believe it or not, growing and building our way out of this. Now, if you are in one of those overcrowded schools, it doesn't matter, okay? Because it's not helping you. But when you look countywide, we have reduced our reliance on portables by 49%. That's huge. And I keep coming back to, It doesn't help, like crime. You can say crime rates are going down, but if you just got robbed last night, it's irrelevant. So if you're in an overcrowded school, we're not doing good enough. But we're doing something right. And the question is, do we go in a different direction, or do we double down in the direction we're going? So that takes us to the capital. Where does our capital come from? So part of that conversation with the citizens that we met with was, it's working. It's not working quite well enough. What are some of the impediments? And I think that this is pretty staggering when you look at this. So we have 3 primary sources of revenue that we use. So mostly we could use the local capital millage. It's state authorized. It's a countywide property tax. It's currently set at 1.5 mils, and it's used for debt service, district-wide capital, buses, ancillary facilities. I did not realize this, but even though it is technically allowed to be used for school construction, until this past legislative session, you could not use it for school construction unless the state approved of your, what's the name of the, your, Dr. Jenkins, it's kind of like your CIP. Looking for Laura. Survey, yes, yeah. And so what I've come to learn is that the state was kind of particular about what they would approve when it came to new schools for relief without having the students there. So while technically you could use the money, we generally weren't able to. Now we can. Second, PICO. We all know the story behind PICO. And then third was the half-penny sales tax. Most of that money has been used for renovation of older schools, compliance with the unitary status commitments, technology upgrades, capital renewal. It is eligible for new schools, and we are now starting to use it more for new schools because we have satisfied or very close to satisfying all of the original commitments in terms of the renovation and the capital digital upgrades. Impact fees, major source of revenue for us for relief schools. It's local option. That means we decide if we want to do it or not. We have to comply with state statutes. It's collected on new residential developments. It's collected at building permit. That's very late in the stage. That's literally 6 to 9 months before somebody is moving in with children that are starting school. And yet it takes us 2 to 3 years from the time we get that money before we can deliver a school. But still, that's when it's collected. This was changed as part of House Bill 7103. At a state level now, we cannot collect any sooner than building permit. Going back to when we first started our capacity enhancement agreements, we were collecting and asking for reservation when we were issuing our CEAs. Then it moved to plat. Now, statutorily, it's at permitting. So it's taking us longer and longer in the process to get the money. It can only be used for new capacity, and the rate is set countywide by the Orange County Commission, but obviously we play a very important role in that. And we are right now revisiting the draft impact fee study that came to us to make sure that we are collecting as much money as we can legally collect, given the circumstances that we're in right now. It covers only about 78% of the student station based on historical costs, and that goes to the fact that you have to give a credit for other revenue sources that we use to pay for school capacity. And then mitigation. Mitigation is in addition to impact fees. Everybody pays impact fees. Mitigation is only for a development that is impacting a school that's already overcrowded. We have proportionate share fees that's collected as part of that concurrency. That comes at the last stage. They already have their zoning rights. They could normally just pull their permit, but they've been stopped because the schools are overcrowded. They pay a proportionate share fee. It's set by the state. They could pay capacity enhancement fees if we have discovered earlier in the process at the zoning stage that we have a problem. So those are the two, and then some developers have either donated land or, like in Horizons West, we are able to get land at $22.5 an acre, substantially less than it costs. This is a list of the 2020 capital improvement plan, where you'll see we have 19 schools planned and funded, 10 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 1 K-8, 4 high schools. A lot, $1 billion in construction just in the 2020 plan. So you all are very familiar with the PICO funds, but the local capital millage was really caught my attention. So prior to 2009, school districts could levy up to 2 mils. And in 2009, the legislature reduced the amount that we could levy, and this is specifically and only for capital. This is not the operating, the RLE that we've talked a lot about. This is capital millage only. They reduced it by $0.25 In 2010, they reduced it by another $0.25 In 2009, we were in the throes of recession. So here we are. We are no longer in the throes of recession. It is almost it's 10 years later. We are still stuck at 1.5 mils. The difference in what we would have collected had the legislature allowed us to stay at 2 mils versus what we have collected is $500 million in that period of time. Now, there's an asterisk there because the reality is the Orange County Commission did require, I think the term would be require, the school district to reduce their millage to 1.5 in return for putting the 1 penny sales tax on the ballot. Commissioner Hartage and I objected to that, but Mayor Crowdy actually went to the legislature to get the law changed so to be able to require that. So while that technically didn't affect us as much because this school board was already forced to lower it, the effect of the state's decision is $500 million. If we could get back up to 2, we would be taking in over $60 million a year more than we're taking in right now. That would be a huge improvement to where we stand in terms of overcrowded schools. You know the story on PICO funding. We were getting all of it. 2010, we shared it, and since then, we haven't seen any of the funding, the capital funding from PICO. We still see some maintenance dollars, but not the capital funding. That amounts to $32.6 million over that whole period of time. It's significant, but it's and I understand why it bothers us, but it's nothing compared to if we could get that capital millage raised back up again. The combined total of these two, about 512 lost in capital millage during that period of time, PICO funding of $32 million. The lost revenue opportunity, had we had it, we could have built 21 elementary schools or 12 middle schools or 4.5 high schools. So, or obviously some combination. So sharing that with our citizens that are concerned about overcrowding and then saying we reduced our portables by 50% in spite of this, we would have reduced them by 100% if we hadn't had money taken away from us that we otherwise should have had an opportunity to collect. So you can see there's really hope here ahead of us if we can get some support in the legislature, which we think we have a pretty powerful champion of this maybe in the next legislative session that put this on the table at the end of the session. So I think there's a possibility, and we can give our citizens that are concerned about overcrowding a specific direction this time, rather than just say, ask for money. Tell them exactly what to ask. So that takes us to House Bill 7103. We've all complained about it, but the bottom line, the concern with House Bill 7103, one, it pushed impact fees back to permitting. That's irrevocable. That's now state law. And two, it's now requiring us to credit dollar for dollar every proportionate share or mitigation fee against our impact fee. So if you take that language literally, or if you take that language the way the development community would want you to take it, we get $1 of mitigation fees, we lose $1 of impact fees. The net effect is, why have mitigation fees? And that could result in us being forced to take a tougher position on these CEAs. We're working with the county. We had a meeting with the county a week and a half ago. Laura Kelly presented a proposal that makes a lot of sense, but they have to make the final call whether they're legally going to support it. If they don't, then we have to decide as a board how we move forward. So I think it's also important to recognize that this bill was championed by GOBA, and the sponsor of the charter amendment is their legislative affairs director, and we spoke at length when I was writing to the governor and pleading with him to not pass this bill because of the unintended consequences on GOBA's members and on Orange County Public Schools. So I think it's important to connect the dots, that if somebody wants to be for us and help us, they can't hurt us at the same time. So the potential impact of historical funding, we just talked about that. Credit for, no, I didn't. The credit for mitigation fees, if we lose them entirely, we're talking about $23 million, and the credit for reduced land costs that we, from Horizons West, the schools that we've been able to purchase in Horizons West at $22.5 an acre, that's $24 million. So combined, that's another $47 million. That this doesn't go retroactive, but if we look at the impact this would have had it been in place, it gives you an idea of how it hurts us going forward. So we've done pretty well. We've lost some revenues. We have an opportunity to get some back, but now we take another hit in House Bill 7103. Now we have to try to undo that in the next legislative session. This is the Charter Review Commission membership. You all have this presentation, and it also shows you who appointed them. To be clear about one thing that I think there's a lot of confusion in the community, these folks do not, their recommendations do not go back to the county commission. They are the final say. They agree to put something on the ballot, it goes on the ballot. Secondly, if this commission works the way others have, usually the last day of the meeting, any issue that's been brought up, regardless of how dead it was at one time, can be brought up and voted on the fly. So I want to share that because I don't think that we should assume, based on what happened, that this is dead. Hopefully is, but I know that the superintendent is committed to having staff at all of the meetings because it also may not be agended. I did inquire whether, if it comes back, will it be on an advertised agenda, and the answer is no. They will make it a point to let us know, but it's not likely to be an advertised agenda. So what does the Steinhauer proposal say? It really sounds very good, which also concerns me if it goes on the ballot. It sounds so good. Orange County may not enter into an interlocal agreement for school concurrency unless the interlocal agreement, nobody cares about that, provides that no Orange County, right, they're not going to read that. That's just gobbledygook. Provides that no Orange County public school may remain at or over 120% of its capacity. Bingo, I like that. Wait a minute. For more than 2 years. So I'm in Horizons West, I'm in Apopka, I'm like, finally, cap the overcrowding. I don't like 120, it's too much, but at least somebody's putting their foot down for more than 2 years. Keep reading, without a relief school being planned. Okay, no school is overcrowded in Orange County without a relief school being planned. We do planning really good. We would fund them if we had the resources. But planning doesn't get you a new school. But this is a caveat that is so huge. And then the second caveat, or other arrangements are being made to relieve overcapacitated conditions. Okay, we do that too. Other arrangements are portables. Nobody's happy with those arrangements, and we don't blame them. So this sounds good. Then it has these exceptions on the end. If the public, if citizens have their way, they'll get rid of those caveats and we'll just stop with 120 for 2 years. So what's wrong with that? That sounds better than what we have, and that's what we heard from the group that came in and met with us. First of all, we're at 110 now. That takes us to 120. But they're saying you're at 110, but your overcrowded schools are at 140. So what happened to your level of service, and why aren't you sticking with it? This sounds better. You can see why citizens looking at this are really having a hard time. And you can see why we as a board need to understand it so that we can explain. You're right, we're saying 110. What happens when we get to 100 or 110? Developers have to pay to mitigate their impacts. Are they paying enough to mitigate their impacts? Are we looking carefully enough at how overcrowded is a school? And at what point do we need to slow things down? Are we as engaged as we need to be? I think those are future conversations that the board needs to work through. But the biggest problem with the Steinhauer proposal is, I'm going to jump to the next slide. The biggest problem is that it calls for no interlocal agreement. You cannot have an interlocal agreement unless we abide by whatever level of service it is ultimately adopted. So let's say it's 120 for 2 years. So what happens if we're at 140 for 3 years? No interlocal agreement. What does that mean? Without an interlocal agreement, we have no concurrency. We have no charter review. We have no voice at the county or city commission meetings. We're back to where we were in 1998 when I, as a parent, was showing up here and showing up at the BCC meeting and nobody was talking to each other and it didn't matter. So the poison pill in this proposal is the no interlocal agreements. Instead of it being a threat that says if we do not have enough money to keep up with the demand, then we're going to need more money, or less development, it says we just take away everything from the kids, as opposed to the balance that we have right now. So that's the big concern we have. How well did we communicate it to the group that we met with? I think it was a mixed reaction. I think we had some folks who really got it. I think we had other folks who still want to know, okay, I get it, that's not the right solution, but what is the right solution? And that's the one thing that I think, because we can't talk in private, that I want to leave you with, is that they are looking for what is the right solution. And I think we can do better. And I think we can do better but still find a balance, because we can't be so aggressive that we lose our ability to have what we have. We don't want to be trumped by the legislature. We've got to be fair, but I think we can do better. This is who presented. We had a presentation. We had 3 minutes apiece. So Laura Kelly spoke for 3 minutes. She really talked about the preemption, why the charter doesn't have the authority to do a lot of things that people would like to do, because the school district is separate completely from county government. Julie Salvo spoke about our process and about where we are and how we plan for schools. And then Eileen spoke to the funding issue and our funding history and the constraints and the legislative end of it. And then I spoke, Member Byrd and Member Gould. Member Byrd was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And then Member Gould, it was such a cool thing because we each three had very different approaches. And then Member Gould came in with we are here to collaborate, we want to work together. I could not have been more proud of Orange County Public Schools between the staff presentation and our board members and the job they did. Absolutely phenomenal. And the reality is, we didn't get to go through it once together. Eileen and I, everybody took their parts, and of course, as board members, we couldn't. Everybody took their parts and still came together and gave what I thought seemed like a seamless, very impactful presentation. We had 3 public speakers. One of them, Marcy, I think her name is, phenomenal. I have downloaded her speech and transcribed it because it blew me away. I mean, you would think I would know everything, and I was sitting there going, man, have we done a lot in Horizons West. It was really, really cool. And then that was during... Yeah, she's lived through it all. And it wasn't like she painted a rosy picture. She painted a realistic picture, but she also showed all the schools that we built and how rapidly the district has worked to keep up. And then they went into their regular agenda, because we were in the public comment before the actual meeting started, and then maybe 20, 30 minutes later, it was time to take up the CRC action on this item. Commissioner Steinhauer offered his motion, and it died for lack of a second. So where we stand at this point, as I explained, is that it could come back. It could come back up as a study topic, or it could theoretically come up at the end of their process, which is about a year away. I think I would like to work, and the superintendent and I have talked about this, I'd like to work on some ideas that we could bring back as proposals for the board to consider. I'd like to make sure we're looking at all of our funding options that are available for construction of new schools, and making sure that the board ultimately is setting the policy of where we place our priorities, knowing that we have a lot of competing priorities. But I think the board needs to own that responsibility, and I think we need to own it in a very public way. I think the public needs to have an opportunity, as unpleasant as it is, they need to be able to show up and tell us what they want, because that's a big part of the accountability process, and it's a big part of the trust process, is building that trust. And if we learn something along the way and we find some opportunities we didn't see, we'll be better off. And if we don't, at least the public will see what we went through, and they'll be able to understand that we've done our best, and now we need to go to the state for more money. Same place we are when it comes to teacher pay, except for that I think we may have a few more opportunities on the capital side than we currently have on the operations side. And unfortunately, we don't get to shift them around. So that's next to come. Any questions any board members have? Oh, Member Gould.
Chair, thank you for doing what you do so well, which is take a lot of complicated historical, legislative, and content and really illustrate it in the simple way to follow, and I would like the slide deck because it's something I've struggled with communicating for years because it is so complicated. So the illustration is fantastic. There's this topic which is brought up, which is really at what point can we open schools in time? And that topic is not a one-dimensional topic, and that's one of the things that as we're noodling on what we're going to discuss going forward and how we present it to the community, it really has to be presented in that broad, how does it all fit into a system? Because I have wonderful people who move from my home area, Massachusetts, New York, etc., who want us to open schools that are less than half full. Well, the reality of operating a school that's less than half full is not equitable. So I think that has to be part of the conversation. I think the other part of the conversation, and where I have fear when we use the word slow down, and especially in Horizon West, is what if we do make measures to slow down, we take measures to slow down construction, which we could do, and investors that have that funding need to take that elsewhere and leap county lines or states, which has happened in the past. And we never finish Horizon West. And we get stuck with the schools, the sidewalks, the traffic lights, the roadways, because that's a comp plan community. And when it's not even planned as well as that community, it becomes even more at risk, because it doesn't matter if you come back and finish it because it wasn't a big plan. Okay, I had that project, I liked it, maybe I'll sell that land someday. So I think one of the things when you talked about Marcy is that because she has lived through this, at least in the 7 years that I've been on the board, is that she really has grasped, as many of the other parents who went through Windermere, Sunset Park, I mean, I could list all the schools they've had their living education in, that if we do X, there's cause and effect on Y. And if we do Y, there's cause and effect on X. I am way beyond 110% in support of trying to get, especially legislators, to understand the impact to the economy and our future on this new bill. And while I think GOBA championed it, I can't, I'm giving them, I hope, the credit where credit is due, that they didn't understand what they were building, and it hurts their builders, ultimately. Because if it forces us into a position where we have to try to slow things down, especially now that our funding is essentially cut, because we have net zero gains. When you look at, okay, we can take this now, but we have to credit it back here. Well, that's net zero.
Mm-hmm. Net zero.
So I think and figure out how to illustrate that, because that, it is so mucky, and even those of us who live it and know it, to try to articulate it, and that's why I love this presentation, to try to articulate it in a logical fashion, but then also look at those cause and effects. If you do this, then it forces us to do this. Where does that leave our community and our kids? If you do this and it forces us to do this, where does that leave our kids? Are we going to bus them? And who's going to volunteer for that? Because that's our next step. We would be busing kids from the west side to anywhere we have capacity. So how is that good for our children and their feeder patterns and the sense of community when our goal is to have community-based schools that are assets to our entire community when they are community-based schools? Okay, the other argument that comes up, supersize your school. Okay, so let's say we supersize the next middle school to 4,000 kids. So the next two communities don't get a school because we supersized one school. It is, and people don't understand the cause and effect. of that. So thank you, but I wanted to just, as we're contemplating and going to bring this back for a more robust discussion, I mean, if this doesn't keep me up at night, nothing keeps me up at night. But these are the challenges. It's not as simple as let's change a percentage number. We could set that number at 80%, but if we don't have the funding or we don't have even the contractors to build, say that we could triple the rate of building right now, you probably couldn't get the workforce to do that with all the projects that we have going on in this town. So it's never one-dimensional.
So let me put your mind at ease, because that's why I pointed out that I think that I am very cognizant of the impact of slowing things down. But I will tell you initially, when we set out on this path, the goal wasn't to figure out how much we could get from the development community. The goal was to get the development community to be in this with us. Okay? So right now, we go to Tallahassee, we want an extra $500,000. We get nowhere. The moment the development community says we need this in order to get these schools built, because we need schools to sell our homes and to keep things moving, they're a lot more powerful than we are. They need to be with us, not against us. So I don't want to, I feel bad talking behind somebody's back, but I could not have been more clear with Mr. Steinhauer when I called him. I know him well, and I like him, and I respect him. But I could not have been more clear when I said, I think you guys made a mistake, and it's going to be your own members that are going to pay the price, because you're putting us in a box, and we have no choice. So I couldn't have been more clear, and yet this amendment, what's the cause of this? This then torpedoes the interlocals. If we can't keep up with whatever standard is, and if we can't because the legislature takes away another $250,000, another $500,000, or we lose impacts, North Carolina, by the way, or Orange County, North Carolina, they just lost their impact fees altogether. The state just said no more impact fees. We're not going to have impact fees. We lose impact fees, game over. So we need people who are running for office and want to solve a problem to understand the root cause of the problem, and to fight the root cause of the problem, not fight us, fight with us, just like we say with our teachers. Let's fight together for the solution we need. Let's not fight each other. That's where we need to be. And I think working together, like I said, this has been a learning experience for me, just delving a little bit more deeply into our sources of revenue without undoing or taking any money away from our older neglected schools. I think we do have a little more room than we're currently using, and I think there's some things that we can do moving forward. I think regardless, we have to honor a charter amendment that we have to have, and we have to do our best job of communicating with our parents. I completely agree with you about the oversized school. One of the huge problems, make middle schools 4,000. What that means is then the school's not going to be overcrowded till it has what, 35, an extra 1,500 or 2,000 students in it. Right. So the problem gets bigger. The problem doesn't get smaller by having bigger schools. And I think that's just a short, you won't even find a place to build a school because we have a hard enough time. And besides which, we know it doesn't work. We know our kids do better in smaller schools. We know that the relationship that children have with their administrators in the school, not just their teacher. We know that all matters. And I think we are at our maximum right now in terms of where we want to be for school size, to be efficiently utilizing our resources and recognizing children as little human beings who need a lot of nurturing. So I think we're in the right place, and I can give a gazillion reasons why that will turn out worse and not better. So I think we're very much on the same page. We don't get a chance to talk much. I'm glad we did tonight, and if you have any further questions, between Julie and Eileen and Laura, they've been a wealth of support for me. But this is primarily for those of you who have high growth. And you should have this deck, but we did make a few updates, so I'll make sure that it gets out to you, okay? I need it for tomorrow. All right. Thank you all for the opportunity to walk through this. Please, Member Castrodeno.
I just want to thank you for digging in and explaining that, because I know bits and pieces, but I don't always know how it all fits together. So I appreciate all the work, and I appreciate everyone who went to the CRC meeting and represented us so with such strength. That's girl power. So thank you. And also, you said that you would share the slides with us. Is that something we can post on our website so that other people have access to that as well? Yes. Yes, okay, thank you.
Okay, good to go? All right, meeting, I'm sorry.
Change of topic.
Go ahead. Member Gould.
Tomorrow, we are doing our second set of general counsel interviews, and I would like to make a suggestion to move the location from here to the conference room. So, because with this group, I think that it would behoove us to have a more intimate, closer physical contact with them as we're interviewing them, since these are our finalists, instead of kind of this fishbowl component. So that is a request.
Dr. Jenkins?
That I have.
We can do that? Okay. I know we just have to make, it's still an open meeting, so as long as
Right.
we have room for anybody who wants to
Right.
attend.
Right.
Very good.
And then I had a second thing. We have the Gen Wow. I think everybody knows what Gen Wow is, where we bring all of the high school young ladies. We need your help in spreading the word about the mentors that day. We have to get people signed up because it takes time to go through the system. With our computer transition, there was a little delay getting that out, but now we're getting into crunch time. So if you could share the letter, and we can send that to you via Marilyn, and post that out to all of your public places, all your gal friends, all your PTAs. We just need to get those mentors signed up and ready to go, because otherwise we're going to have to cut the number of girls that we bring in. I think that would be not the best thing to do. And our goal is to bring 800 girls to this session this year. So, and if you aren't signed up, you should sign up too. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Member Cobert.
Great minds think alike. Once again, I rather like the idea of moving the second round of interviews to the rear conference room. It sets a different tone when you're looking at people eye to eye, same level, as opposed to us being way up here. And I imagine that can be rather intimidating. Not that I see any of us as intimidating. However, I had that exact conversation with someone today, and I'm really glad you brought that up. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
That's right.